So, I asked my daughter-in-law, or rather, the woman I thought was my daughter-in-law, when the wedding was, and she just looked at me, completely blank-faced, and then very calmly said, "We got married yesterday." Yesterday. Not, "We're planning it for next spring." Not, "We're thinking of eloping." But yesterday. Can you imagine? My only son, my pride and joy, got married, and I, his mother, found out about it after the fact. From a woman who barely had the decency to look apologetic. Was I wrong to feel like my heart had been ripped out of my chest and stomped on? Tell me if you would have just smiled and said, "Congratulations," because I certainly couldn't. Let me take you back to how this all started. My son, David, has always been a good kid. A bit quiet, perhaps, and a little too easily swayed by others, but good-hearted. He was my only child after years of trying, and I poured all my love and energy into raising him. His father, my late husband, passed away when David was just a teenager, leaving it just the two of us. We were a team. We always talked about everything. Or so I thought. David went off to college, and that's where he met Sarah. From the moment he introduced her, I had a strange feeling. She was different. Not in an overtly negative way, but in a way that just didn't quite mesh with our family. She was very independent, very strong-willed, which I admired, but she also had this air of secrecy about her. She didn't talk much about her own family, which I found a bit odd, and whenever I tried to get to know her better, she'd deflect or give very brief, surface-level answers. David, on the other hand, was absolutely smitten. He saw the world through rose-tinted glasses when it came to Sarah. He loved her quick wit, her ambition, her drive. He said she challenged him, and I suppose that's what he needed, as he sometimes lacked a bit of a backbone. I tried to be welcoming, I truly did. I invited her to holidays, to family dinners, to our traditional Sunday brunches. She'd come, but she always seemed a little detached, a little distant. She'd participate in conversations, but never really open up. It wasn't until a year into their relationship that things started to get really tense. David started spending more and more time at Sarah's apartment. He'd call less, visit less. When I brought it up, he'd get defensive, saying I was being overprotective, that he was an adult. I understood that, of course, but it felt like she was pulling him away, slowly but surely. Then came the engagement. I remember David calling me, his voice brimming with excitement. "Mom, Sarah said yes!" he exclaimed. I forced a smile into my voice, despite the knot forming in my stomach. "That's wonderful, honey. When did this happen? Tell me everything!" He told me they had been out to dinner, and he just knew it was the right time. He showed me the ring later, a beautiful, delicate sapphire. Sarah wasn't with him when he told me. She rarely was during these family conversations. I asked about wedding plans naturally. "Have you set a date? What kind of wedding are you thinking of? Small? Big? Have you thought about venues?" David just shrugged. "We haven't really talked about it yet, Mom. We just got engaged." That was months ago. 6 months, to be exact. And every time I brought up the wedding, I got the same evasive answers. "Oh, we're taking our time. We're just enjoying being engaged. Sarah's really busy with work right now." It felt like a wall was constantly being put up between me and my son. I offered to help. I have some experience with event planning through a women's club I'm a part of, and I was genuinely excited to contribute. "I can help you look at dresses, Sarah, if you want. Or we can start a guest list. My friend Susan is a fantastic caterer. I can get you a discount." Sarah would politely decline, saying they wanted to do everything themselves, or that they hadn't even thought about it yet. It was always a gentle pushback, but a pushback nonetheless. My intuition, which has rarely failed me, was screaming that something was off. It wasn't just the lack of planning, it was the complete disinterest in involving anyone else, especially me. David, who used to confide in me about everything, was suddenly a closed book. He'd clam up if I mentioned the wedding, or changed the subject. It was heartbreaking. I tried talking to him about it. "David, honey, I just want to be a part of this. It's your wedding and I want to celebrate it with you." He'd sigh. "Mom, you will be a part of it. When we have something to tell you, we will. Just give us some space." Space. That's all I seemed to be getting. More and more space. The calls became less frequent, the visits even more so. I started to feel like an outsider looking in on my own son's life. He was building a new life with Sarah, and it felt like I was being deliberately excluded. I knew it wasn't David's idea entirely. This felt like Sarah's influence. She was the one who seemed to have this aversion to family involvement. I'd overhear snippets of conversation when they were on the phone with friends, talking about their big plans, but those plans never seemed to involve informing me. I felt a growing sense of dread. What if they were planning something small and secret, and just hadn't told me? The thought was a painful one, but I tried to push it away. Surely my son wouldn't do that to me. Not to his own mother, the woman who raised him, who was there for him through thick and thin. The woman he always called his best friend. The tension continued to build over several more weeks. I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, inviting them over, sending little gifts, texting David every few days. Sarah's responses were always polite, but brief. David's were slightly warmer, but still felt distant. I started to feel a profound loneliness. It felt like I was losing my son, not to marriage, but to this new, impenetrable wall that Sarah had built around him. One day I decided I couldn't take the suspense anymore. I needed answers. I called David and asked if I could come over to his apartment, the one he shared with Sarah now, to bring them some homemade lasagna. He hesitated, but eventually agreed. I showed up with the lasagna, hoping a home-cooked meal might soften the atmosphere. Sarah was there, sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. She barely looked up when I came in, offering a brief "he" before going back to her screen. David seemed a little uncomfortable, trying to mediate the awkward silence. We sat down to eat, and I tried to make small talk, but it felt forced. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I looked directly at Sarah, trying to keep my voice even despite the tremor in my chest. "So, Sarah?" I began. "I know you two have been busy. But I was just wondering, have you two set a date for the wedding yet? I'd love to know so I can start making arrangements, perhaps sending out some the dates to our family." That's when it happened. She looked up from her plate, slowly, her eyes meeting mine. There was no apology, no hesitation, just a calm, almost indifferent expression. And she said it. The words that would forever echo in my mind. "We got married yesterday." So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have kept your composure? Would you have stormed out? Would you have broken down in tears? What would have been your immediate reaction to such a betrayal? I'm genuinely curious to know, because in that moment, my world completely stopped. The silence that followed her statement was deafening. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mouth fell open, but no words came out. I looked at David, desperately searching for some explanation, some sign that this was a joke, a misunderstanding. But David just sat there, looking at his plate, avoiding my gaze. He didn't say anything, he didn't deny it. He just sat there, allowing his wife to deliver this devastating news to his own mother. My son. The boy I raised. The boy who was supposed to be my best friend. He couldn't even look at me. The betrayal was like a physical pain, sharp and suffocating. Yesterday. I finally managed to croak out, my voice barely a whisper. "You got married yesterday. And you didn't tell me. Your own mother." Sarah just shrugged, a slight, almost imperceptible movement. "We decided to keep it small, very private. It was just us and a justice of the peace." "A justice of the peace," I repeated, incredulous. "No family, no friends, nothing." David finally spoke, his voice low and mumbled. "Mom, we just wanted it to be simple. No fuss. No fuss." I felt the anger starting to bubble up, hot and bitter. "This isn't no fuss, David! This is a complete disrespect! This is a slap in the face! How could you do this to me?" "To your family." My eyes were stinging with unshed tears, but I refused to cry in front of her. I refused to give her the satisfaction. Sarah, surprisingly, spoke up then, her voice a little sharper. "It was our decision, David and mine. We don't need anyone's permission or approval." "Permission? Approval?" I scoffed, standing up from the table, my hands trembling. "I'm not asking for permission! I'm asking for basic human decency! I'm your mother!" "David, you think it's okay to just spring this on me, after the fact, like some casual announcement?" David finally looked up, his face pale, his eyes wide with a mixture of guilt and defensiveness. "Mom, please don't make a scene." "A scene?" I almost laughed, but it came out as a choked sob. "You think I'm making a scene? You two got married behind my back and I'm making a scene? Are you serious, David?" Sarah stood up too, her posture rigid. "Look, we understand you're upset, but we're adults. We make our own choices." "Upset?" I cried, the tears finally overflowing and streaming down my face. "Upset doesn't even begin to cover it. I am heartbroken. I am devastated. I am utterly appalled by both of you." I turned to David, my voice cracking. "How could you let her do this? How could you let her push me out of your life like this?" David finally snapped, his voice rising. "She didn't push you out, Mom. We just wanted a simple wedding. You always make everything a big deal." "A big deal?" I gasped. "My son's wedding is a big deal to me?" Is that so hard to understand? I felt a surge of strength then, a fierce protective instinct for myself, and for the years I had poured into raising David. I looked at Sarah, truly looked at her, and saw the cold indifference in her eyes. It was then that I knew. This wasn't just about a simple wedding. This was about control. This was about deliberately excluding me, systematically creating a wedge between me and my son. And David, my sweet, easily swayed David, had gone along with it. "You know what?" I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite my shaking hands. "Keep your simple wedding. Keep your secrets. But don't expect me to pretend that this is okay. Don't expect me to celebrate this. Because what you've done is unforgivable." I walked over to the kitchen counter, picked up the lasagna I had lovingly prepared, and walked to the trash can. With a deliberate, slow movement, I lifted the heavy dish and dumped the entire contents, the rich, meaty sauce, the tender pasta, the creamy cheese, into the bin. The clang of the empty dish as I dropped it back onto the counter echoed in the silent apartment. "You can cook your own damn dinners now," I said, my voice flat. "Because I'm done. I'm done trying to be a part of a life where I'm clearly not wanted." I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked out of that apartment, slamming the door behind me. I got into my car and drove away, the tears blurring my vision. The pain was immense, but mixed with it was a burning anger, a sense of defiance. I wasn't going to be walked all over. I wasn't going to let them get away with treating me like an afterthought. In the days and weeks that followed, the silence from David was deafening. I expected him to call, to apologize, to explain. But he didn't. Sarah, of course, remained silent. I kept my distance. It was agonizing, but I knew I had to stand my ground. My friends and family were shocked when I told them. They were all on my side, expressing outrage at David's behavior. My sister, David's aunt, called him directly, demanding an explanation. He gave her the same flimsy excuse about wanting a simple, private ceremony. She told him he was being a fool, that he was letting Sarah isolate him from his family, and that he'd regret it. He hung up on her. Weeks turned into a month, and the silence stretched on. I missed my son terribly, but I couldn't bring myself to break. I felt like if I did, it would be an admission that what they did was okay, that I was just being overly emotional, and it wasn't okay. Not at all. Then about 6 weeks after their wedding, David finally called. His voice was subdued, almost hesitant. "Mom, can we talk?" My heart leaped, but I kept my voice firm. "What is there to talk about, David? You made your choice. I know you're upset," he began, "and I'm sorry you feel that way. But Sarah and I are happy?" "Happy," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You call this happiness, David? Cutting your own mother out of your life, marrying someone in secret, and then expecting me to just go along with it?" He sighed. "Mom, please? Can we just move past this?" "Move past this?" I scoffed. "There is no moving past this, David. Not until you understand the gravity of what you've done. You chose to exclude me. You chose to let your wife dictate our relationship. And you chose to break my heart." The call ended without a resolution. He wanted me to accept it, to pretend it hadn't happened, to just be happy for them. But I couldn't. I couldn't pretend that a lifelong dream of celebrating my son's marriage hadn't been cruelly snatched away. I couldn't pretend that the woman he married hadn't openly shown her disdain for my presence in his life. I couldn't pretend that my son hadn't become a stranger. It's been several months now. David and I have had very limited contact. He sends me a text on holidays, and I respond politely, but there's no warmth, no real connection. Sarah remains a ghost in the background, a silent, powerful force shaping my son's life and mine from afar. I see photos on social media, photos from their wedding, finally released, showing Sarah smiling, David by her side, a handful of her friends, but no family from his side. It confirms everything I suspected. It wasn't about simple or private. It was about exclusion. It was about severing ties. I often wonder if he regrets it. I wonder if he misses our old relationship, our closeness. I wonder if he'll ever realize what he gave up for a woman who clearly doesn't value family. And I wonder if I did the right thing. Was I too harsh? Should I have just swallowed my pride and accepted it? But then I remember that feeling, that deep, crushing betrayal, and I know I couldn't have. I couldn't have pretended that it was okay. I couldn't have enabled their behavior. Sometimes, standing up for yourself, even against your own child, is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. I often find myself looking at old photographs of David and me, from when he was a boy, and a profound sadness washes over me. The boy in those pictures, full of life and laughter, is still my son, but the man he has become feels so far away. The silence between us, the chasm that has opened up, is a constant ache. I miss him every single day, but I also know that I deserve respect. I deserve to be treated with love and consideration by my own child. Sarah has created a life for them where I am not welcome, and David has allowed it. That's a wound that doesn't heal easily, if ever. I hold on to hope that one day, David will see things clearly, that he will understand the pain he inflicted, and that he will try to bridge this gap. Until then, I live with the quiet grief of a mother who lost her son, not to death, but to a choice that tore our family apart. It's a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that the daughter-in-law I once hoped for, the woman who would join our family, instead became the architect of its destruction. The image of that lasagna, unceremoniously dumped in the trash, often comes back to me. It wasn't just food. It was a symbol of my love, my effort, my desire to nurture and be a part of their lives. And it was all discarded, just like my feelings. So, that's my story. It's still raw, still painful, and I'm still navigating the aftermath. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing by standing my ground. Subscribe for more stories like this, where I share the complexities of life and relationships. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'm eager to hear your perspectives, your advice, or even just your empathy. Did I overreact, or was my reaction completely justified? I'll see you all in the next story.